My 32 female husband, 34 males, ex, 36 female, claims I swapped our babies when I was in labor. So, my husband left his ex when he found out she was cheating on him shortly after they were married, like a month. While they were getting divorced, that's when I met him when he was a customer at my store. We had a lot in common, and we started hanging out and developed feelings pretty quick. As soon as we could, we got married. I love him so very much, and my heart told me that no matter what, I was marrying him. He's amazing. Then a few months later, after the wedding, we found out that I was pregnant. That I was pregnant with triplets. His ex called him up and accused him of cheating on her with me. No, and that she was pregnant too. To her credit, she was. And that the baby was his. But he swore to me up and down, left and right, that her baby wasn't his. And I believe him. I trust him. Anyway, I go nearly full term with babies. As far as they'd let me. And we had 3 beautiful babies that I absolutely adore. My husband was blubbering when we finally had all 3 of our beautiful, healthy babies. But it turns out when I was in labor, his ex went into labor too. And she had her sweet baby that unfortunately had to go to the NICU. My mother-in-law informed us of this later, because their mothers are friends still, after we came home with the babies. After taking time off social media to, recover from having triplets, I started receiving all these nasty messages calling me hurtful names and telling me I was a monster. Turns out, after his ex had her baby, she went to social media telling everyone I stole her babies and that I gave her my sickly baby. And all her little friends took up the cost for her and started harassing me. I'm baffled because how? I was a planet with my babies, because I have a small torso and those 3 went out. Also, my babies were big and tall like their daddy, not tiny like me. She has demanded I give her babies back and to take her preemie baby, which I'm never going to do. And my husband has told her several times already. My brain is tired. I don't know what to do. Does anyone have any advice for me, please? Now for the top advice. Call the police and get a restraining order and a lawyer. She's screwed in the head. Yes, this immediately. She's not well. I would be very, very wary of her. I would also cease communication with her immediately. Yup, block everywhere and get the cops involved. Thankfully, my ex's new wife swapped my 3 healthy babies with this one. Sounds pretty crazy. Call the police and ask them to do a welfare check. That the baby she's currently taking care of needs to be checked. If she has psychosis, then that baby needs to be taken in by someone else whilst she gets help. Show the police everything and tell them you are scared that this child is in the house of someone who sounds like she's going through psychosis. I would definitely get a restraining order. And make sure you block all contact with her on social media. Block anyone who tries to contact you. This definitely sounds like postpartum psychosis. Very sad and very scary. Hope she gets help and that baby stays safe. People don't realize how much hormones and pregnancy can cause severe mental health issues. 100%. I had a patient who had PPP. She ended up ending her newborn, went to the top of a building, and jumped off of it. She survived, but ended up having her 2 other kids taken off of her. It has been told that if she has kids in the future, they'll be immediately taken off of her. It's sad and it sucks, but this lady needs help. Info. Was a paternity test done on her child? My husband said she hasn't asked for a paternity test, but he would gladly do one if it will settle things. Next story. My sister found out our parents want to abandon her. I'm female 32, the oldest of 4. 2 of my siblings are adults with their own home/apartment, but my youngest sister is 10. My baby sister wasn't planned nor wanted by my parents, 65 female, 68 male, and they decided to leave raising her to us. We were 22, 18, and 17 when she was born. When I got my own apartment, they started leaving her with me for a few days a week because they needed a break. I'm not sure why none of us called CPS, so they're technically still her legal parents. A few months ago, they decided they wanted to let me adopt her so they could retire and travel. I wanted to take her to the beach for a girls' weekend and ask her about me adopting her on the trip. I was going to frame it as them being too old to take care of her to try to make it hurt less. But today she walked in on my parents talking about buying a tiny house and the whole thing came out. She's been extremely quiet and withdrawn since. Honestly, the best way I could describe this situation is that someone broke my sweet, bubbly, happy baby sister. I know she needs to go to therapy, but is there anything I can do to help her in the meantime? I doubt you'll be able to do anything to make her feel better. Just be there for her. But hold up a second. Your mother was 55 when she had her? Yes. The women in my family tend to be able to have kids later, but she was definitely a surprise to all of us. My grandma had my aunt at 55. I hope I'm menopaused by then. I'm so sorry for your situation, and so glad your sister has you. As a parent, here are my recommendations. 1. Get her therapy immediately. 2. Tell her every day that you love her, that she belongs there with you and you will always be there for her. 3. Make sure your parents are paying child support. Yes, the very least they can do is pay child support since they are the damn parents. They can just foist her off on someone else because they want to go play. Crappy parents. Raise the kid until she's 10 and then ditch her to play around the world. If you couldn't raise the kids, don't have the kids. Screw those people. She must be so absolutely heartbroken and scared. I would just take her home with you, if you can, and cut your parents off. She needs to know she's loved, and you will protect her. If you go and get her, are your parents really going to stop you? I'd also be worried about her hurting herself, so it might be best she can be with someone who loves her anyway. She's staying with me right now. She's so scared that I'm going to leave her too, so she's clinging to me while trying to keep her distance, and it's breaking my heart. Poor baby. My dad left me when I was 8. Obviously a different situation, but all I could say is just be there for her. Over time, she'll realize you're not going anywhere and hopefully she will come down a bit. Does she have a room at your place? Maybe doing up a space for her with things she has picked out and knows are hers will help. I know everyone is saying therapy for her, but I hope you're getting the support you need too. Next story is titled, My 30 female husband 30 male and in-laws seem to forget that I'm a person and not an incubator. I'm currently pregnant with our first child and my in-laws' first grandchild. Everyone seems to have an opinion on how I'm handling my pregnancy, and I understand they're just excited, but it's starting to feel like they've stopped seeing me as a person and think I'm just this golden incubator. I'm pretty much not allowed to do anything except for rest without everyone overreacting. Once, I was craving something my family used to cook, so I went to make it. And when my husband saw me, he freaked out and asked me why I didn't ask our cook to make it, and insisted I go lay down again. That's another thing. We now have a cook and a cleaner because he doesn't want me to worry about anything, but also wants to make sure I'm eating as healthy as possible. Another time we went on vacation with my in-laws, and when I went to get some of our luggage, they all freaked out and were acting like I would break if I just carried one bag. My mother-in-law is constantly forcing me to eat and drink things that are supposed to be good for the baby, and whenever I say no, she makes me feel guilty until I take it. Also, I've lost count of how many times I've been recommended not to eat something because they don't think it's good for the baby. Sometimes they all talk about me/the baby like I'm not even there. They have minded my child's entire future planned out and don't seem to realize I might actually not agree with some of their ideas. When I suggest we do certain things, they say things like, I'm not sure that's good for the baby. I know they're not doing any of this to be malicious, and they're just really excited about the baby, but it's making me feel horrible. I have a good relationship with my in-laws outside of this, and my relationship with my husband has been fantastic. So I would like to find a way to get them to stop, without hurting their feelings. Any advice on how to achieve this? Have you tried standing up for yourself and putting your foot down? Tell your husband to fire the cook, because you can cook for yourself. If you want. Tell your family you can carry a bag just fine. Tell them you'll eat what you want. You obviously have done research on what you shouldn't be eating, and you will make choices you feel is right. If you don't stand up for yourself, people usually want to stand up for you, especially when you're in a position that makes you vulnerable, aka pregnancy. I would have told it against them for trying to help, but I think this is in big part of your fault for not setting boundaries. I've tried to, but I always end up feeling guilty and backing down. Again, consider it practice for when you're dealing with a stubborn toddler. They'll pull out all the stops too. Sometimes you just gotta put your foot down and let them sulk it out. For the in-laws, I am the mother here. I decide what's good for the baby. I appreciate that you're trying to be helpful, but when I say no or thanks but I'm doing it this way to something, I really need that to be the end of discussion. Or, hey guys, I'm right here, for the times when they just flat out ignore you. As for your husband, you need to have a more serious sit-down conversation about the fact that him treating you like you can't do anything is causing more stress than if he'd back off and trust you to ask for help when you need it. Even more importantly, You need to talk about how to make sure you're on the same page in terms of setting boundaries with the in-laws, because that's only going to get worse once the kids hear unless you sort it out now. But again, you're the mom. Take charge and start setting some rules. Sounds like this can be fixed with communication. First of all, on the resting front, it's super unhealthy. Pregnant women, with the exception of some complications, need to stay active. That's a well-documented fact, so you have it clear out there. If they argue with you, the line, "I have done plenty of my own research and I'm not prepared to put my baby at risk because of the opinions of others," is ready to go whenever you need it. In terms of food and drink, etc., just let them know you're following your doctor's recommendations. You can even make a joke about how if you listened to every piece of advice you ever received about what not to eat when pregnant, you'd starve. It's time to gently set boundaries and make it clear to everyone around you that your word is final on anything and everything related to your pregnancy and body. If anyone tries to guilt you, let them know that if they can't respect your decisions regarding your pregnancy without pouting, then you'll have no choice but to involve them less. Now for the last story. I'm hating my life since having a baby, and we don't know what to do. I never wanted kids. Husband didn't care either way. We're extremely happy and beyond in love. I accidentally got pregnant 2 years ago, and surprised myself with how excited I got. Hormones are a witch. I had a miscarriage, but decided I would go off birth control and let nature take its course. I got pregnant in October and was very neutral about the whole thing. It sucked, but I wasn't sick or anything, but still just wanted it to be over. Labor was fine. It was scheduled. Nurses were fab and my epidural was mint. No problems there. We had a baby at the end of July last year. We talked about how neither of us really felt the immediate deep love other parents talk about, which was fine. He was/is a super easy baby, and our lives didn't change that much. We do everything 50-50 and it's a breeze. I was on mat leave and it worked. I went somewhere every day, got my exercise and yoga and walking. Still ate healthy. We still go out a lot, play sports, have a great support system. Lots of babysitting, date nights, friends over, etc. Added information. I've never been depressed, and I'm a genuinely happy, bubbly person 98% of the time. Around month 5, I started crying a lot, really hating time with the baby. I think it's because he started moving that I had to actually pay attention and do things, and just wishing I was anywhere else but in my present situation. I went to the doctor and she prescribed me Wellbutrin. I started a gratitude journal. I did meditation, etc. I went back to work early, and my husband finished maternity leave. That helped for a bit and stopped my massive hourly meltdowns. But it hasn't changed my train of thought, and now I'm basically back to where I was. Cried 4 times today. I freaking hate this life. It's not hard like people say. It's just annoying and frustrating and tramping. I count the minutes from when he gets up until I can ethically bring him to daycare. I count the seconds from when he wakes up from a nap until he can go for another one. I can't get out of the driveway fast enough when we have a babysitter coming over. I have something planned for every minute of the day when it's a weekend, because the thought of staying home all day and entertaining him sounds just freaking awful. It's not him. He's actually quite wonderful. I know that sounds insane, but I hate the act of parenting, if that makes sense. I also just don't get the worth it part. I ruined 2 years, so far. My body, my brain, I'm so dumb now it hurts. My finances, my house, my relationship. For what? Anyway, I'm essentially miserable 95% of the time now, and I can't figure out what to do. My husband just said 2 days ago the hardest part of having a baby is keeping you happy, and he's right. I can't keep living this way, and neither can he. We still can't keep our hands off each other mad, but it's just so terrible. I just wish I had done this with someone else so he would be having fun with it, not me as ruining it. I don't know if I'm looking for advice or maybe someone who feels the same way. Anything would help while I dream about running away. Edit. I'm in therapy, on medication, lots of communication with my husband/family/friends, and my baby would never know I'm not loving this. I'm trying to make this better. It's really human of you to just be open about all of this, and there's nothing wrong with you at all. Parenting's like anything else in that it can be crap. You sound like you're intelligent and attuned to your emotions, and you've got a good moral compass. Just that being a mother freaking sucks right now. And it's okay to just feel that. You should just talk to your husband and be totally honest. Just tell him that you love him and your child, but that doesn't change how you feel within yourself. Not everyone is built for blissful parenthood, and the crap side of it isn't discussed nearly enough. I believe if it was, there'd be such less shame attached to women who became mothers and don't glow at being a pointed role. You're not alone, and you're smart at a lot of things, and a mom is just one of them, and it's just not particularly fun right now. Try simplify it for yourself and for your partner. Thank you so much. Hearing this a couple of times is making it better. Oh, and he's well aware. The communication flows freely in this house. I do think there's a stigma around hating parenting, and it makes it so hard. Thanks. Just a reminder, this age is the hardest part. When they need you the most. I have a 13-month-old. I get it, he's into everything. But I take solace in the fact that it will keep getting easier. And then school starts. And they just become more independent and knowledgeable. You're allowed to not love it. You're allowed to be touched out. Take it easy and remember, The Muppet Show is streaming on Disney. But HBO has vintage Sesame Street. You're allowed to be touched out. This is a real thing. We often need to touch to feel loved, but with babies, they always need touch. You can be touched out. You can definitely need some space. Also, lots of parents don't actually seriously bond with their children until they can talk. That is totally fine. Sometimes being screamed at for every single need doesn't foster a loving, connected relationship. It gets easier the older they get. Keep your head up, OP. Babies are hard to raise, and honestly, people pretend it's more fun than it actually is. Maybe you will learn to get along with it as it grows up, as many parents do. Sounds like you need a group of adults to take the pressure off of being around a baby all the time. You're normal. People just don't admit all this because they are afraid of judgment. So, I'm pretty open about the fact that this blows, and all the parents around me agree. So why? Why do they make it look appealing and fun? I'd have more than one. I feel like I was conned. I definitely get the adult time, but I could always use more.